Let's just get after it, man. So, Murray, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for taking the time, and thanks for staying up late. It's a 5 hour difference, and I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
No, I appreciate for you inviting me on. It's this isn't too late in Scotland when it's we got the light nights. You can't see outside, but it's still bright outside. And what's that, quarter past or 5 past 10 with us? So this is still early for us.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like you say you're in the back of the golf shop right now.
Yeah,
That's some late hours.
this is the back shop at Cruden Bay Golf Club in Scotland. So it's probably the best angle I could find in the back shop.
I love it. Well, for those that don't know much about you, and I've, like we talked earlier before we started recording, it's like I'm trying to find as much information as I can. I know you're a young coach. You're kind of new to the teaching game, which is why I wanted to have you on. Honestly, I want to have some more young coaches and get the perspective of, you know, you guys that are sort of getting into it. And because I think it could be super valuable for the listeners out there. A lot of young coaches listen to the show. Give us your backstory. Like, where did you come from? Where'd you grow up? And then how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I grew up locally to here. So for those that don't know where Cruden Bay is, it's just 15 miles north of Aberdeen, which is in the northeast coast of Scotland. So right next to Royal Aberdeen, right next to Trump International. That's the two kind of headline courses along with Cruden Bay. So I live in a little town just 10 miles from here. Grew up playing golf in that small town, just a tiny little parkland course, small town course. When I started getting into golf, I went to a college just 4 miles from St Andrews. It's called Elmwood College. It was like a greenkeeping and golf pro college. So we learned more about like anatomy, golf coaching, strength and conditioning. It was kind of a big umbrella over
Oh,
all
wow.
things
Yeah.
golf. Yeah, and it was really good. It's really neat. And at that point, I think there was about 90 golf students, and about 40 of them were less than a five handicap. So it was really competitive, a bit like your collegiate golf, trying to play
Hmm.
for the team every week, going away. They had like a high performance squad. So that's where my love. There was a coach there called Graham McDowell, not the actual Graham McDowell, but Graham McDowell.
Yeah. I know
He's a
who he
PJ.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Great guy.
So
Great
that's
coach.
yeah. So that's who I learned under. So he was going through his PhD at the time in skill acquisition. So he was really testing all his theories and hypotheses in the high performance training, which was really cool. So we went through all that. We were basically his guinea pigs for a couple of years.
That's so cool.
And that's where my passion for coaching really came out. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. So from there, we went to university, done a year course. And when I finished university, this job came up for an assistant at Cruden Bay Golf Club. And it's just 10 miles from my house. So I thought this is just all seamlessly coming together. So no, it was really
Yeah.
element of luck and good timing, but no, really good.
So you're an assistant, or are you the full time
So
teaching
I
pro?
was, yeah, so I was the assistant for like 10 years. Now I'm just the head teaching professional for the last two.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
was kind of juggling the act for the last 3 years in the shop, but it just became, I'm sure all the listeners are in the golf industry know, trying to juggle two jobs and 60-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Some people listening to this might think that's part time,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
yeah. So then it was just like I love the shop here. I used to love working the shop. We get loads. We get 7,000 visitors a year. Majority of them American. It's on the kind of circuit. So yeah, so I love that meeting new people. But yeah, I knew I wanted to coach, so you had to take that jump, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So how did you work that out with the club? Like,
Yeah.
what was the day that you said, okay, I'm going to change my role, and
So
how
yeah, I
did
spoke
you?
with the
Because that's a common theme, right? You've probably heard some of the pods where people are trying to make that jump. It's like it's not as easy as it sounds because they still want you to work in the shop or they want you to do hours. So how did that come about?
so the head pro is really good here. He knew that I was, really enthusiastic about coaching. He probably knew this day was coming when I was telling him, "Hey, this summer can I work just 20 hours in the shop?"
Yeah.
And it was slowly
Yeah.
coming down. So I just reduced my hours over the years as the diary got busier for coaching.
Hmm.
And then from there, I just had a conversation and said, "Hey, I want to do this full time." He's like, "Just go for it." He was really supportive. And then basically now I just struck up a relationship with the club. Not the head pro owns the shop here, so it's not run by the
Hmm.
club. So then I went to the club, and then you have to get a contract in place with the club now. It's technically self-employed contractor.
Oh, okay. Wow. So yeah, so it's not like, because we were talking earlier, it's not like you've been teaching or coaching for 3 years. You've been doing some of that as you were assistant. Now you're full time, right?
Yes, I've been qualified for 9 years now. So I'd have been teaching just after then, on and off, 10 lessons a week, 5 lessons a week, just coming out your training. And then probably
Sure.
for the last 6 years, it's been really busy. And then those two, it's been full time.
Gotcha. Yeah. So have you been happy with your decision? Are you feeling good about
Yeah,
your progress and then kind of the direction your career is going?
no, I'm really happy. It's as you know, work-life balance has become a huge focal point for people after COVID. So it's nice to be able to run your own diary. Have say when you get time off. Stretch days when you want to fit people in, pull things
Sure.
back. Just flexibility without having to. Can I put a holiday slip in? It's just like we'll just cancel that afternoon. We'll just block that off in advance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it gives you some freedom. There's obviously pressures to it. You're running your own diary, you're running your own business, and I think that was the comfort blanket for myself, and I'm sure a lot of assistants or pros coming to the game. The comfort blanket of having this salary there. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll just hold on to that, and they try to make more coaching. You can only do so much before, in my opinion, before you kind of get burnt out. It's a tough road to go down.
Yeah. So tell me about your family. You're married, looks like. I saw a wedding ring
Yes,
or
yeah, married. I have a 5-month-old girl and I have a 3.5-year-old boy. So it's
okay. Yeah,
it's
you're well on your
busy.
way.
Oh, it's a busy. So and we're in the middle of trying to move house just now. So it's my life is
Oh,
just like juggling.
yeah, yeah.
But no,
Welcome.
it's good. It's good.
No, that's great. Yeah, so talk about your influences. I mean, you mentioned Graham. So I'm curious about when you really get that sort of ignition to start coaching, and I
Yeah.
know you do because I follow you on social. I got some questions about your social media as well, but like, how do you navigate gaining more information, getting better? Like, what's that roadmap look for you, and look like for you? And then who are the people that you've spent time with and surrounded yourself with to get better?
So like I said, Gray McDowell was a huge influence just on just how to, you know, structure a lesson differently. Um, put the player in certain scenarios that maybe test them a bit more truer to the golf course, rather than a driving range environment you'd maybe see yourself in a typical lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So it really got me to think outside the box. That helped me structure the kind of plans that I do in a lesson. So all my plans will come with course time. So we get the players on the course frequently, and that's probably came from just the experience of working or being with Graham, getting us on the golf course, putting us in situations, making us feel uncomfortable, and truly seeing what comes out of performance from there. So probably that would be my biggest influence.
Sure.
Um, in terms of, I was thinking about this, in terms of like people that have influenced me, it's mostly podcasts. I'm a big podcast listener. You find a guest that you really like, you then go type his name into Spotify or whatever, see what other podcasts
Mm-hmm.
he's been on. Um, as you know, just like yourself, I just got the Smart2Move plates. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been kind of following like a Michael Dutro, and Ryan Hawley. Those two guys have been helping me out a little bit,
Okay.
with some plate information. But in terms of like coaching, I don't really. No one here at Cruden Bay has been massive into coaching. Like it's not been their focal point. So I've not really had anyone that's churning out 60 lessons a week, and I can shadow lessons. I have to go out and about and see other coaches. So I've
Sure.
I've done that. I've done that like everyone else. I'm sure you've done it a million times. You go sit in
Yeah.
with other coaches. So that's kind of been. I've not really had like a mentor as such. As close as would be Graham, like I touched upon. But
Yeah.
apart from that, I haven't really had someone. I've never been in a workforce where there's loads of coaches around us, like an
Yeah.
academy
Yeah.
environment, and you're bouncing ideas off people. It's kind of just been like solo, just.
Yeah, it's
But
all right.
that's
There's
good.
two schools of thought there, right? And I'm just trying, and that's why I was interested to have you on because I want to get a better perspective and sort of look at it from a younger coach's lens of like the landscape now, right? It's like there's one there's one side that says, okay, we need to go spend time with other coaches, sort of learn what they know and what we would call what I always called modeling, right? It's like I did
Hmm.
that when I was coming up. Is like I didn't know anything, so I'm going to like act more like this person,
Yep.
say some of the things they say, learn some of the information. But then there's the other side. It's like I'm going to do it my own way, right?
Yeah.
You're going to like figure it out on your own and like learn from obviously the experience of teaching a lot and kind of go that route. I just didn't know if like who were some of the guys you spent with over. I didn't know if you'd come across the pond and did any of
I
that, but
I haven't done anything really across the pond. I met
mhm.
up with Mark Sheftick.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, I know Mark.
yeah, so I was over playing his place when he was at Marion. And then the following day, just through a mutual friend, they managed to set up, and he was very generous with his time. I spent 2 hours with him, and he was showing me he had like the gas stuff there, and that was the first time I'd ever
Right.
seen plates. So that was a bit of an eye opener. He kind of like watched me hit one shot and like described all my misses and all my flaws. I'm like, this guy's got some weird stuff going on. Like walking out the room backwards, just like this is a bit spooky.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was really good, and that was like, wow, I never thought of golf coaching like from the ground up type stuff. It was really new, so that would have been like 2017 maybe.
Yeah.
So the ground stuff wasn't really at the forefront like it is now. Um, but yeah, so I've not been too much to the pond to see coaches, but just local coaches around my area.
Who are some of
Um,
those guys?
so a guy called Neil Marr. Do you know Neil Marr?
I
Neil
don't.
Marr. Okay, so Neil
No,
Marr, really good.
Humar.
Hugh Marr, yeah, he's good. Yeah, I actually said to him I need to come down and see him because he's got the
Yeah.
plates as well. And I said
Hmm.
I'll bring you a whole load of like Scottish delicacies because he's down there in England. He doesn't get all the good stuff that we get in Scotland. So it's
You should definitely go spend time with him.
yeah, he's really switched on. His podcast with yourself was really enlightening. It was good.
Thank
The
you.
so so yeah, Neil Marr, I'll go see him, bounce ideas off him. Another gentleman called Pete Arnott. So he worked with Graham. They
Yeah.
wrote a book together.
He's a
So I went
performance coach, right?
correct. I went
Work
to
with
college.
Molinari, I think, and those, yeah, some of those guys on
Yeah,
European tour. Yeah.
yeah. So I worked. So I went to college and uni with Pete.
Okay.
Um,
Nice. There you go.
and Graham would have been his biggest influence going through college. He changed careers and he was new to golf and he was slightly older than us. He was kind of 10 years older down the line.
Hmm.
So he made a career change and Graham would have been his kind of right. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so just some local coaches. Just just go sit in with them and see how they coach, just see how they do things. Yeah, you always just get when I went to see Mark Sheftick, just little things like don't ever use the word change, or don't ever use the word like just like little things. We're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
improve. We're gonna improve this. We're gonna do
Yeah.
this, and just that's the little 1%. When you listen to all these great coaches and just how they word a lesson, there's
Yeah.
nothing
Language
ever.
is important for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Dr. Mark, I learned that from Dr. Mark Poole. He's like, we're always improving somebody. We're not fixing somebody, it's just little things
yeah,
like that. You sort of catch yourself
yeah.
saying, yeah, super
No,
cool, man.
that's exactly what it's like, and it's
Yeah.
yeah. I don't really have any cool stories for you about me mentoring someone for 3 days and if this happened, this happened. It's literally but podcasts are a huge source now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You
Yeah.
can get
What
some
else are
really
you
good.
listening to aside from mine, of course? what are you what are
Um,
you listening to that interests you?
I'd be listening to like the Dew Sweeper one.
Okay.
Uh,
Tony
and you'd be
Rosario.
listening,
Yeah.
yeah, and then I'd
Mm.
be listening to obviously your one. I used to listen to a lot of the golf lab stuff. With this name's just escaped me.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
had a lot of
I
good
know you're talking
stuff.
about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Claude Harmon's ones, especially when he gets like other coaches on. I'm not too fussed about the player stuff.
Right.
When you get players on, it's more just coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll just type in. I can't remember the pods, but like Ryan Hawley was on. He's been on like 3 podcasts talking about ground stuff. I mean, I can't
I have to
remember the
check him
name.
out. Yeah, I don't recognize that name.
Yeah,
That's
so
interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely.
he's Canadian. He works with Nick Taylor when he got his PGA
Okay.
Tour win last year, or yeah, last
Awesome.
year. So
Yeah.
he's been doing a lot of work with him. Excuse me. So he's really good. Um, like I said, I've done like a course with Michael Dutro. Do you know him?
Mm-mm.
The force
No.
plates guy? The force plates guy?
Dutra, does he work for Smart2Move?
No,
No, no.
he's
Okay.
on it.
I'm just,
He's in Michigan. He's got his own little indoor center. He's called
hmm.
the force plates guy on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to
No,
check him out.
you need to check him out. He's got a really good YouTube page for anyone interested in the kind of ground stuff. He's got a really good YouTube page. Got some good videos. So I've done his like certification type thing when I got the
Okay.
plates. Yeah. So again, podcast. So I do listen. Like obviously, you're when I listen to
Hmm.
kind of when the new ones come up, you get notifications. But I'm no more like this guy was interesting. I'll look up his name. Oh,
Sure.
he's been on 3 other podcasts, and I just go down that rabbit hole, and then I find out
Yeah.
his stuff, and then switch from there.
Yeah. Much of a reader? Do you read books or do like Audible or anything like that? I mean, podcasts have kind of taken over. Like when I was growing up, actually read a lot of books. Now I do Audible or podcasts. It depends.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
more of a podcast guy. More of a
yeah.
podcast
Yeah.
guy. I used to
Gotcha.
read a couple of books, like some skill acquisition stuff, and
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, definitely more. That was more when I was at college doing all the literature stuff.
It's kind of interesting. It sounds like you've come at it more from like a coaching perspective first, and then now adding some of the technical teaching stuff. Right? Would that be fair?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew from like a very young age I was not good enough to play, and I could. I mean, I could play a little bit. I think I was off scratch when I was 16, so good club player. But
Hmm.
I knew there was like a couple of guys at the club that were already beating me, and I'm like, if these guys are beating me, and I live in the back end of nowhere, what are the guys in the States going to be doing, or what are the guys in England going
Yeah.
to be doing? So I kind of just had that,
Yeah.
I
Never
just
thought about coming to the U.S. to go to university and play college
um,
golf.
that was so back when that would have been 15 years ago. I'm 34 now, so that would have been about
Yeah.
15, 16 years ago, and it seemed like the guys that were going to college in the States were like the guys that were winning the British Amateur, the guys that were winning the Scottish Amateur.
Yeah.
It was the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's way more accessible now for guys, um, especially if the parents are happy to fund it. It's way more
Yeah.
accessible.
It's tough. Yeah. That's. I mean, I know recruiting's difficult as it is, but it's like getting guys from Europe. It's just
Hmm.
so tough. That's why a lot of you guys come to small colleges because they didn't really understand. You guys get prizes, great players that you can get
Yeah,
at, Campbell College or, some of these places where not big, but they're Division 1 and they have to go on to do great things.
yeah.
So really
No,
good.
it was definitely like a real pipeline dream for a lot of people trying to go to the States college. It wasn't until probably in the last 10 years it's became like, oh no, you can do it. You can
Yeah.
if you've got a handicap. And I think there was back then there was a bias. A Scottish player playing off like +1, they'd be like, "Oh my
Hmm.
goodness, they play in wind and rain all day." They must be
Yeah,
like a +4 in the States. I think they got
for
a
sure.
little bit of leeway. But no, it's I think looking back now, it would be a great life experience. I probably
Sure.
would
Yeah.
have,
The travel and
yeah, I probably would have, tried to focused on the education, get a degree. A couple of my friends went and they actually, they've done a business management degree. They focused on that. They loved the
mhm.
team stuff, loved playing good players, but like they knew they were never going to play for a living. But they loved the life experience. They got a university degree or college degree, as you call it.
Yeah.
So it was a win-win.
So what was your degree? Like, is it like a marketing, like, or is it like sort of like
It
a
was
PGM degree, like over here? Would that be fair? Like, it
it'd
sound
be
like a professional.
it'd be similar. It
Yeah.
basically it was a bachelor in social sciences
Gotcha. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
degree. So it was the proper title was BSc in performance golf.
Mm.
So Graham was the one that was really trying to get that set up through a local university. So we go college, then university would be a slightly higher academic. It's not like yourself where you just go to college.
Right.
So yeah, so we were done 2 years at college, and then they opened up this course just so the timings were just perfect when I went to college. To finish my second year, thinking, right, I'm gonna have to go get a job, and then this degree came around, and I thought, yes, I gotta be a student for one more year.
Yeah. Heck yeah. As long
I don't
as you
have
can
to
take
decide
it.
what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I went to Abertay. So we basically piggybacked like a sports coaching degree. So done like biomechanics, some strength and conditioning, psychology, nutrition, and then we went back to Elmwood to do like the golf coaching specific stuff with Graham.
Right.
So it was really good. Like the biomechanics stuff was great. nutrition, strength and conditioning stuff was really good. So it was a really kind of nice, well-rounded course.
Yeah, that's great. So are you guys? It's kind of interesting because I live in sort of a resort vacation spot, and you're obviously getting a lot of tourists in your area. Are
Yeah,
you spoiled in the fact that like everybody wants to come and play those golf courses over there that you kind of live near? Um,
yeah. Or it's just like when I go to see you guys, when I go to the
yeah,
States, and I'm like, ah, go give me some like water, give me some like parkland golf. They're like, what?
right.
Why are you coming over here? The grass is always greener, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, no, we are spoiled. So like 10-minute drive, you're at Trump International, 15-minute drive, Royal Aberdeen, an hour to Carnoustie from here. You are a good bit. You're 4 hours to Dornoch from here, so we're kind of on the Salmers on the right hand side. But it's on that
gotcha.
list of courses that people
Everybody goes
people
and
travel.
plays. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
cool. What's your
that's good.
favorite course over there? I know Cruden Bay
In
is pretty sweet, but
Yeah, in Scotland, favorite course.
yeah, just like in your area.
Um, so like Cruden Bay is obviously Cruden Bay is different, right? Cruden Bay is we've still got like a blind par three, a bit like Prestwick. There's some blind holes that never changed that. That's the way it was laid out in
Mm,
1899, and they've just kept it.
wow.
Um, like Trump International is really good. Dornoch
Okay.
really good. Um, Royal Aberdeen, obviously, all these places
Yeah.
had Walker Cup, had Scottish Open at Royal Aberdeen. So yeah, unbelievable tracks. Have you been to Scotland?
No, I was
Never.
like it's I know it's amazing. I've lived vicariously through my students that all
Yeah,
take these trips and then they tell me about it. I feel like I know everything about it, but I've never been. Yeah, I need to
yeah,
do it. Me and my son have threatened to go play, and now that he's old enough to do it, got to do it soon.
you have to do it. You have to do it.
Right. Yeah.
It's a bit like you guys doing the Bandon trip, right? It's just like one of those things that all
Right.
the guys have
Yeah.
to do. Yeah,
Bandon, or you're just even coming to Hilton Head. There's great spots here to play. And then, yeah, like I know you've been up in the Northeast. I mean, tons of good golf courses up there.
yeah.
Super cool. All right. Well, let's get into a little teaching stuff, right? We've talked about technology. Like, what are you currently using? I know we're going to get into the ground force stuff and Smart2Move. What else are you using as far as radar? Like, what's your setup look like?
So in our setup, we have Sam Pat Lab, we have TrackMan, and we have the Smart2Move 3D
There you
force
go.
plates.
Yeah. So just like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So it's good. It's great how it integrates with TrackMan, the Smart2Move.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a real bonus. Obviously, we didn't know that at the time when it came out, but it's a nice added bonus. But yeah, I think everything's covered with that, right? Radar,
Yeah, absolutely.
ground, and putting.
Yeah. Unless
So
this 3D would be the only other thing,
yeah.
which I mean, depending on your clientele, you don't always need that
Mhm.
every lesson. How often do you use Smart2Move? Every lesson, or is it just a certain situation, or kind of a
I would,
judgment
I,
call?
yeah, very much a judgment call. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably have someone on it every day I'm teaching, but I wouldn't have every person on it.
Right.
You can often see the clues, when a certain, you're unsure of what's going on. Now I know video can trick you. I've seen guys that look like they make these beautiful pivots and beautiful turns, and you put them on a plate and they don't even shift any pressure to their trail side. So video can be deceiving, but when I would see certain things going on, I would get them on the plates. I don't want to see what they're doing. So yeah, so it is kind of at the very start when I got them in January, it was like if you had a heartbeat, you were on the plates. It was like as soon
Oh
as you come
yeah,
in, like they were
that's the
like, "Oh,
way
I want
I
to
am.
work on,
Yeah. You
yeah,
might
I
not
want to
even
work on
look
my,
at it. You just want to like capture it and then like
oh,
maybe look at it later, right? Just to learn some stuff.
yeah, oh," and they're like, "I want to do a putting lesson." I'm like, "Yeah, but let me just see how you hit 7 iron off the plates."
I love it. So talk about what you've learned as far as, I mean, we can go as deep as we want, but I think probably a good question to be like, what do you see? I don't know what level of players you're working with, probably, from beginner to scratch, but what do you see in the better players doing that the average club golfers aren't? And like, I mean, I know it's a broad question, but like, I've got preferences, right? Of kind of what I've seen and what I like to see players do. Like, give me your blueprint for what you've noticed.
Yeah. So probably the biggest thing I would notice with the amateur player, say just your average club player that we teach, I would see that their motion precedes like the forces. So what I mean by that is like, for example, right foot, left foot. I would see them making their backswing and they're well into their backswing, and then the pressure starts to move into the right hand side, and then they start the downswing, and then the pressure gets into the left, like at
Yeah.
impact or beyond. Rather than the forces preceding the motion, they're going the other way, right? So they're making this swing, and it's almost like the weight of their arms actually just what moves the pressure into the right side, and then they
Gotcha.
start their downswing, and then the pressure moves them into the left. So think of it like how you would throw a tennis ball or baseball. They're very
Hmm.
much like arm, then body, then throw, and then it's just
Sure.
discoordinated. Yeah. So I would say that's probably the biggest flaw I see compared to like your scratch to pro player.
Hmm.
They're moving that pressure way before any movement precedes any kind of movement. That's what I would be seeing. What would you see?
I'm not the guest. No, I'm kidding. No, we can talk about it. I mean, I think I'm trying to figure out like good questions to kind of to ask to like get into the head of like, all right, here's because we all have preferences, right? We're all kind of looking for stuff, but then we start to like they say, success leaves clues, right? So I would say the biggest thing, like let's start with setup and how the pressure moves, because I think, like you said, the force changes before the club moves. Like ground reaction forces, obviously, is reaction is a key word there. That it's just moving against something that the player does and moves into the ground, right? So
Yeah.
one of my big things is making sure, especially when I would say to make it easy for the listeners or for golfers out there, is when the ball's on the ground, let's say, irons through, hybrids, even fairway woods, I want to see pressure in that lead side at the start, right? So it's kind of whatever, I'll throw 55% lead pressure, right? To kind of get things moving into the trail side properly. Because like you said, I think most players either are heavy on their trail side early because they've all been told to shift their weight. So they move excessive amount of weight versus pressure into their trail side and maybe don't rotate, or they don't. I mean, I'm big on basically getting people to extend and push up hard with their trail side in the backswing. But it starts with, if I see somebody that's having poor contact, like the first thing I'm going to look at is like how much pressure is in that lead foot at setup, and that's just moving. As far as setup goes, I mean, we're on video, so we're not standing up, obviously, but the pelvis moving slightly towards target without the upper center moving with it, right? So it'd be kind of slightly tilted, right? So
Yeah.
lower center being the belly button, center of the pelvis, and then the upper center being slightly back, maybe an inch.
Yep.
But I think that's a huge piece because it's like being on scales, right? Like you said, it's like people that shift way too much in their backside, the timing of getting in their lead side is either doesn't happen or it's super late. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? I mean, that's something you're
Absolutely.
seeing. Yeah.
That's something I would definitely see. Exactly what you said. Like they've taken that message a little too far of getting that weight transfer. So
Oh,
they're
yeah.
they're really deep into that trail side, and then from there, especially like the average club player, they're say they're 60-year-old guy. Um, you know, Stereotypically their swings are shorter, so
Mm-hmm.
they've just reduced their window to get onto the trail, the lead side. So
Sure.
they're all the way, say, let's just say 90%, and their masses with it as well. Now they've
Mm-hmm.
got this little swing that would resemble a junior's half swing wedge shot or a 3/4 wedge shot. So now that they've reduced their window to get onto their lead side, and it's just game over from there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, another big one I see, I'm sure you see this as well, if you're a big pivot guy and a big extension in the
Yes.
backswing, is people getting their pressure out beyond the ball of their right foot. I see that all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Out,
So that's the
out
kind
in
of
the
stuff that we want to talk about, right? It's like what do we don't want to see is probably more common than like what we actually want to see. But
Yeah.
yeah, like aside from my good players, tour players and juniors, 80% of my clientele are older demographic, right? So
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time trying to get them to actually rotate their pelvis and extend that trail side so they can create more rotation. And one of the things I've learned from Smart2Move is how much the verticals actually create rotation without them trying to rotate as much. Like I usually just try to get them to turn or rotate or however, whatever language you want to use. But the more I can get them to push up, or like what James Lights would call the cartwheel, right? The kind of frontal torque, I guess, the more they actually get the, torso or the thorax to rotate, whether it's, I mean, I'm pretty big on hand path depth, for the average golfer, because like you said, if they think they're turning and they're staying in forward bend and flexion too long in the backswing, they're never going to get enough hand path depth. They're always going to be steep, right? So
Yeah.
that's probably what I'm work the most on with the guy. It's the easiest, I guess, prescription for your average golfer or your older golfer that feels like they don't have as much flexibility, and they typically have more than they think. Because, like you said, the more lateral they move, the less they can rotate. So get them to push up, which extends that right side, and the pelvis moves, and everything kind of rotates with it. That's probably the biggest thing. But and then we talk about the forward side. But what are you like in the set up the backswing stuff? Like any numbers, or what are you looking for on Smart2Move?
Yeah, so top of backswing or as
Yeah,
in
like just from address to top of backswing.
so like address I like to see like just on inside the balls of the feet. I like to see a little bit set up on lead side, just a fraction.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of my guys will be there anyway because they're links players and they're used to playing in a hurricane every day. So
Yeah.
they're you get some guys are like 80%. I was like, what's the weather been like the last week? And it's like 40-mile-an-hour gusts. Okay.
Yeah, so they're stacked on their
Um,
left side maybe too much sometimes, right?
yeah, you can definitely get that. Yeah, touching upon that's quite interesting. You can see a lot of like abbreviated traces with guys I teach. So they're like 60-70% on their lead side, so left leg.
Mm,
And as they make that weight shift, they only get out to like 55-60, and then they're back to the left. And they move really well and they
yeah.
compress the hell out of it. They're really good at
Yeah.
that. But you can see that's an environment thing, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's so interesting. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like an
Our guys are
environment.
trying to hit it higher. You guys are trying to hit it lower. It's going to help. It's going to create a different movement pattern. Good,
Yeah.
really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so like exactly. If you booked them a holiday to Hilton Head for a month, they would be. I'm sure you'd see like, ah, yeah, there you go. You found your right leg for a second, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But so it's set up. I really like just balanced, like a really balanced setup. A little bit more obviously biased towards the lead side
What
address.
about toe to heel? What's your preference there?
I genuinely just like 50-50. I think the masses would just benefit from just like 50-50. Again, I don't mind if it's a fraction forward because you can push off the
Interesting.
ball up because you can certainly not on the toes, but it's fraction forward because that means you can use the balls of your feet for that extension you're talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Obviously your right foot's got that force going this way to get that extension that you're looking for. So it's not a bad
Hmm.
place to be. A lot of your ground guys would talk about wanting to feel as though they're loading into the ball of their right foot.
Mm.
They talk about that a lot. So yeah, so something like that. Top of the backswing, I'm wanting to see guys loading to 85%. Um,
Okay. Yeah,
that's kind of
that's a good
that's a
number.
nice
Yeah.
magic number for me.
Hmm.
Um, from there, I would like to see that 85% being reduced by top of backswing.
So
So
I
I don't
got to
want them.
start moving forward before the backswing is completed.
Yeah, a little bit of
Yeah.
recentering would be kind of
Hmm.
my model. What I like to see, unless I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. You see a junior
Sure.
that moves exceptionally well. They're up at 85%. They don't shift till they start the downswing, and they're at 85% on their lead side. You know, they just move so well. But I think to the masses, people listen to this podcast that are
Yeah.
coaching people like I'm teaching, 60-odd-year-old males and females that can't move that quick. I
Hmm.
think if you can get them learning that the golf swing is not right leg and left leg like we were all maybe taught, like
Yeah.
it's actually
Sure.
a bit like right leg. Now forget about the right leg and let's start working this way.
Yeah.
I think they would have better success at just hitting the ball more solidly, which everyone wants. So
Yeah.
yes, I would look for 85% or so as a decent load, and then from there I'd be looking for that to unwind. Nothing rapidly, But I've seen a lot of good players that get into the right hand side early with their pressure, not
Hmm.
their mass. And then from there, by the top of the backswing, their first frame of the downswing, they're 50-50. And I just think so much good stuff can happen from there. You've just
I
bought
like
yourself
that.
so much. You bought yourself so much time.
Yeah.
Um, and I always use that like throwing a snowball analogy. Like you're moving forward as your hands completing the back throw. So I'll try fit this into
Hmm.
the camera, but like your arms
Yeah.
going back and you're already moving forward as you're going to start releasing that ball. So I try to relate that to the player quite a lot. That they just, you need to start thinking about your downswing being halfway through your backswing. And I've
Are
got a
you
load
using
of
the
like,
Are you using the graphics more, or you use the graphs? I sort of bounce back and forth. I'm more of a graph guy, I guess, from just I use Hack Motion a lot, or in the past, and 3D stuff. But what do you like to look at, and how do you sort of manage? This could become a Smart2Move. Trying to get them as a sponsor. See, this could be a
yeah,
Smart2Move commercial. But I mean, it's.
yeah,
I think it's important for players and coaches to know like kind of what we're looking at.
yep. So I think for the player, when I'm showing them the iPad and I'm showing them, I only have the 2D foot. Like they don't need
Gotcha.
to, in my opinion, they don't need to see more than that. Like they don't need to be seeing bouncing lines. I definitely look at it because I want to see if
Yeah.
their timings are off.
Right.
But for the majority of the people that I'm teaching, I teach a couple of pros where I would maybe show the graphs and I would say, now look here, your lateral so late in the downswing that your rotational and your vertical can't catch up and it's coming in late.
Hmm.
Um, and they would probably get that. You got to be wary who you show that to, but definitely the masses, it's like here's your right foot, here's your left foot. It's like painting by numbers. It's simple stuff, right? And it's like this red dot and your right foot goes out to your baby toe. Like we got to stop that. Yeah, we've got to load a little bit more in the middle.
Hmm.
Um, and my teaching studio looks like a woodwork class. I've got all these balance boards and rocking
Yeah.
boards that have like, and if you follow my Instagram, you'll see them.
I
They'll
do,
be like,
yeah. That's yeah. That I like your because I use the Sheftic board, which is similar
yeah,
to the one you're using. I think it's great.
I just got a little, if you can do it yourself, it's really powerful. Get a clicker installed into it because the audio, in my opinion, is more
Hmm.
powerful than the feel of it rocking. So when you can make a backswing, you hear go click and then unclick. It's like click,
I
unclick
like
is the
that.
unloading.
Yeah.
So I found that's been pretty good. But yeah, so that's typically what I would do with the players. Just show them the 2D foot, show them how these dots are moving, show them how their pressure's moving. Like, when you teach like your average player, you're going to see like, hey,
Right.
this yellow circle dot only gets to 55% on the lead side um, prior to impact or at impact. So it's like we got to push that up if we can. You'll start to see more consistent strikes.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's, and I want to get into like I want to know how you train that, right? Drills and whatnot. You got the bounce boards. I think the
mm-hmm.
biofeedback is invaluable, right? I mean, you don't have to like have them hit shots. It's like get them to look at the screen, get a big, if you got it up on the TV like I do, and it's like, all right, just follow the numbers. Like you said, just look at the feet and follow the
Yep.
numbers and the timing of it. What drills do you like to say to your common problem like that? They're loading okay, but the timing of maybe getting the laterals in and then getting the verticals. Like, what are some of the things that you like to do?
So I've got those in my teaching studio. Like most people, it's AstroTurf, and it's really slidey. So I get those sliders, like the ones you could put on your knees for push-ups and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those like yoga slider things they're called, I think. So I've got them, and I'll get them to stand on them, and I'll have, if you can imagine, my driving range mat. I'll have them with their feet like 2 inches away from it. So whatever way we're trying to push, say it was like trying to create the rotational early, and more, rotation on that or forward
Right.
forces in the left side to clear the hip better. I'll get them up close 2 inches away from the driving range mat, and I'll get them on the top of their backswing to really shove their foot on the slidey plate into the driving range mat.
I like
Because
that.
if they're hitting something, obviously then you're not scared they're going to fall over, but also like they have a goal to get to. So I see a lot of people that say, "Oh, I want to be, the member of the craze of I want to be more open at impact, and I want to be." And it's like that's great, yeah,
Yeah.
you are quite still at impact, and the club's flipping or whatever, but they're so caught up on just trying to like, I'll just isolate my hip and I'll just turn my hip, but I'm like, well, there's maybe an easier way to do this, and you can access that through the floor. So creating that forward motion in
Hmm.
your left foot is a great way to do it. So I use a lot of those slidey plates. You can also do the lateral, so pushing side to sides. You
Right.
can do that as well, and that's really good. And when you get people on them and you get them moving and telling them when they need to apply that force, they can't believe how early it is for a lot of people. So it's pretty powerful that way.
Yeah. So tell me how you like to train, and I like piggyback the question on it. Think about the last time you worked with maybe a new student or a new one of your members that was swinging too much to the left, right? So an out to in player.
Yep.
Like, talk to me if you can kind of picture that person. Like, take me through how you explained it to them, and then how you train them to, let's just say your goal is to hit a draw, or, because that's most of the time what we're trying to do to get our older players to hit it a little farther.
Yep.
How would that look during a lesson?
So you talk about how would I relate that to the Smart2Move?
Yeah, well, either way, how you can use that Smart2Move. I'm just saying, just generally, how would you train that player? How would you make
Sure.
that change in an hour lesson?
Sure. So I'll talk about it, maybe not the Smart2Move to start with. So
Yeah, that's fine.
the biggest thing is still, in my opinion, is people not understanding like the ball flight laws. Like, why does the ball fly the way it does? Like, you got to get their base level knowledge. Like, hey, do you know why this ball starts? I find a lot of players, they only care about the end result of the flight. So you'll watch them hit a shot and they nearly knock the flagstick out, but it started 40 yards left of the target and curved.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but they haven't picked up on that data. They haven't picked up on that issue. So I've got on the front of my driving range, I installed a net, just a simple net, and I'll move that on and I'll block up like half of the driving range. So I'll say to them, like, I can pull this net across halfway across the hitting bay, and I'll say to them, right, look where this net finishes. You've got a few yards of room from that white flag that we're aiming at 100 yards away. They
Mm-hmm.
grabbed their 8 iron, and I said, you think you'll hit the net? Like, no, I've just hit it on the flag the last two shots. They stand there and they hit it like 3 feet deep into this
Oh,
net.
sure. Yeah.
And then they understand, like, oh, that started left. So when you start to educate them, like, hey, we're starting this left. Why do you think we're starting this left? And then I say, certain tee shots at Cruden Bay, there's the notorious one, the 10th tee, you're up elevated, wind's normally howling like every other day, and the out of bounds is down the right. So I say, like, what do you do when you're on that tee? And they're like, oh, I'll just like aim further left, further left. And I'm saying, and you're annoyed when you slice it twice as much? And they're like, yeah, I really struggle with that tee shot. And I just educate them on, like, hey, golf is a game of opposites. It's going to do that to you. When you slice it right, you think you want to aim further left and hit it further left. You've actually got to start going towards that evil, what you don't like aiming at, which is the out of bounds. Now, I know that's an extreme example, but what I'll get
No.
players to do is just start to educate them on, like, why the ball flies. So I'll pull this net even further over and I say, I just want you to hit a high right shot. And I'll give them some drills and some cues and things like that. And then I basically just educate them on. I might bring up the TrackMan, like the nice the TrackMan camera view where you see the blue line as the path, and then the club face. Just start working this relationship together. Um, so I'll start maybe trying to shift the club path first type thing, just so they can kind of see what's happening here, get them
So
away
how do
from
you how
thinking
do
of.
you do that though? Like, it's, let's say, I mean, that sounds good, but like they can't do it.
Sure.
Like, what are you? Do you like to move people around? Like, what's your style of getting people
Yeah.
to change? I mean, the information, I think it's great because I do the same thing. I'll literally pull up the TrackMan numbers and go, okay, here, the ball starts where the face is, or pretty close. Ball curves away from the path, negatives, positives, and they don't always obviously get it right away. But you, like, if you're gonna have TrackMan numbers up on the screen, you better at least have a general understanding of like measuring change, right?
Yes.
And then like, all right, of course they can't do it yet. That's just lip service, but it gives them an idea. So like, how would you go about, like, again, think about your last student that you did this with, and like take me
Yeah.
through that scenario. Like, what did you do to change it?
So what I would do from there is I would then. So you would want to work out if the player is more visual, more feel, and then you can get a little bit more hands-on with the player and say, like, now here. So I'll tell, like my last lesson that was over
Yeah.
at Top
So
Deck. That
describe your guy, and then like take us through it.
so it was actually a junior. So it was a
Okay.
junior.
Perfect.
the junior that kind of like gets the top of the backswing, trying to hit it as hard as they can to hit it further than their peers, and they just get the coordination all wrong, the timing of the body sequence. So what I did with this player, this was the one that resonated with him. So I explained like what's going on.
What was his path number, face? Like, give us the
Four,
details.
like 14 left path.
Nice. There you go.
Nice,
Yeah.
yeah, not a place to live, not a nice place to live.
No.
Um, but like 14 left path, and the face would vary from like 14 left to like something like 4 left. So
Sure.
yeah,
It's curving.
it's curving, or it's like off the driving range fence left.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so and that's the thing. Like a lot of these players think that's two different swings, right? But it's under the same
Yeah.
umbrella, same
It's
family.
first
So you get the
cousin.
person.
As I always say, it's first
Yeah,
cousin. The pull is a
yeah.
first cousin to the slice.
I was to go slightly off topic. I was talking
Mm.
about that with someone earlier, saying like I love playing like a little joke with people that don't really know the ball flight, because they'll come in and they'll be hitting a shot like that's the shot I hit with our hybrid, big slice, and I go like this. By any chance, do you ever like pull your wedges or like your 9-iron? Like I do it all the time, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, of course, right?
Yeah.
They
I like
think
the
like,
guy that thinks a pull hook is a hook. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's that, yeah. So continue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
So
interrupt
that
you.
yeah, that's all right. That's good. The so this player wanted a little bit of a feel and a visual. This junior, he wanted a feel and a visual. So
Sure.
I actually got a bag, like a shag bag type thing, a bag of golf balls for short game, and I got him to hold it, and I got him to swing it back and forth. And I said, right, I'm going to stand, and I stood directly on the target line. And if you imagine, I'm looking back at this player, I stepped out to his right, 2 yards. And I
Hmm.
said, what would you do? You can't aim at me and throw this bag. You can't aim further right and throw the bag to me in a straight line. You have to throw this bag at an angle to me. So he's holding the handle of this like Titleist bag, and he's swinging it back and forth. And I said, what are you going to change? Are you going to change your feet, your hips, or your shoulders? And he thinks about it for a second. So he's swinging back and forth, and he goes, I think I'm going to change my shoulders. Perfect.
Wow. Yeah.
So he changes his shoulders, and he actually throws the bag to me. I catch it. I think, great. So what do you think controls the club, like the path of the club we talked about? And he goes, has to be more shoulders. Perfect. Okay.
There you go.
So then we talk about, right, here's a feeling. And sometimes I tell a little white lie and say, I struggled with exactly the same issue when I was a kid. And I actually did slice the ball a bit with the driver.
Yeah.
And I'll say, this is exactly the feeling that worked for me. It might not work for you, but I want you to try it out. And it was basically, I want you to feel top of your backswing. I want you to feel like your left shoulder is a right-handed player. Your left shoulder covers the flagstick for as long as humanly possible until you hit that
Mm.
ball. So I want you
Keeps
to
everything closed. Yeah.
so I just want him to keep it as close as possible. This guy's got loads of rotation. He gets to the top and really spins
Sure.
out of it. So I said, I want you to keep that as closed as humanly possible. And I'll do a lot of like TrackMan, the manual record.
Hmm.
So recording practice swings.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah. So I'll stand up there and I say, right, go give me one where you feel like your back is aiming at the flag by the time you strike this mat. Okay. Poof. Done. Bring them up side by side. And I say, hey, I know it's unfair. You're not hitting a ball, but here's your
Right.
practice swing. And here's the one you've hit the ball. And look at the difference. And then he's like, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. And it takes, hey, it's not just like you're done. It's like
Oh, sure.
he
Yeah.
gets the concept. So he's bought into the concept. Within the first dozen balls, he hits one that looks like it's trying to draw. Like it maybe fades like 2 yards, and they're calling like, look, it's drawing.
Yeah. Yeah.
they're so
That's okay.
they're so used to seeing 30 yards. So like any gentle
Right.
fade, they're calling it a draw. So there's that. So that would be like that was a general kind of overview of that lesson. And then from there, we just drilled it, got the net back out, and said, look, I blocked the whole left side of the golf course. Come on, let's cover this shoulder,
Yeah.
cover the net, and let's just start getting this ball
Yeah.
swinging around.
That's Graham McDowell stuff right there, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
constraint. It's constraints led learning is what we call that.
Correct.
Put
Yeah.
stuff in the way, right? It's like changing the environment, see if they can adapt,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I mean,
Yeah.
it's good, but a lot of times the pattern's so ingrained, you got to do
Yeah.
some more stuff. But yeah, juniors are great because typically they can flip it,
Yeah.
pretty quick once they
Yeah.
get the concept.
Yeah.
It's
Once you
good.
in like different ways of explaining, like soccer is obviously the number one sport here in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll say like in this, if a kid plays football or an adult's played football, I'll say, how would you hit a free kick and make the ball bend to the left, like up and over the walls, the players that are trying to block the goals? How would you hit it
Right.
up and over and make it bend? And he said, oh, well, I'd come at the ball from this angle and I'd swing my boot at this angle and I'd aim my boot like on the top right corner. It starts at the top right and hopefully curves to the top left. I'm like, let's start doing that with the golf club. How about
There you
the
go.
boot is now the club? So like things like that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
Um,
that's just like field goal kickers in our side of the pond.
yeah, yeah. So
It's similar, right?
yeah, and if and pretty much 9 out of 10 juniors here still play football. It's so big here that so soccer, so they're still playing. So that when you
Yeah,
tell them that, they just get it straight away, right? Because the free kick's a cool thing to do, right? Trying to bend it around the ball. So they've all tried it. They've all tried to make the ball bend. So it really helps with them.
it's cool. What's kind of the makeup of your club? And you sound like you teach some older members. Do you have a big junior program, or is it mostly
Yeah.
just adults? Yeah.
No, we've got a really good junior program here. We've got a lot of juniors participating. It's I don't do a ton of like the group junior coaching anymore. I used to do it
Hmm.
all through the assistant stuff. I'll
Sure.
see them more on like a one-to-one basis now.
Perfect.
So I'll see them
Yeah.
for individual coaching, which is good. I still like the junior coaching stuff. It was maybe just
Yeah.
the younger age group wasn't doing it so much for me anymore. But you give me an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old that wants to learn and is really really kind of got the bug for it, and then
Yeah.
that's as good as it gets. So yeah, so they've got real makeup. Obviously, just your average, your retired guy. We do have a lot of younger members. With Cruden Bay, oil and gas is such a huge industry here. You get a
Mm.
lot of young guys that are working. They normally work like a month on, month off, or 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off type thing. So there's a real rotation. You'll often not see guys for a month, but it's just because they're away to work and then they come back. They're there
Gotcha.
every day. They're there every day, Monday to Friday, just playing golf every day, getting their rounds in. So it's a little bit unique in that aspect. Northeast of Scotland, a lot of offshore workers. Yeah, so juniors, a good sized ladies team, ladies section, and yeah, it's pretty stereotypical. There's nothing stand out. There's
Right.
nothing too.
Are you guys private or like semi-private or
No,
resort?
just like you would class it as just like a resort type thing, but it's
Gotcha.
it's
So you get
it's
a lot of
almost like
tourists.
yeah, tourists. But you can until COVID there was no waiting list. So if you turned up and said, "Hey, I want to be a member of Cruden Bay Golf Club," it was like, "Come on in."
Hmm.
And golf here is so inexpensive compared to America.
Right.
So it can be you'll find a golf course in this area that's affordable for most. So it's pretty good to get in.
Awesome. I got to come over, man. I got to come visit
Yeah, you do.
you.
Yeah, you do. We're spoiled over here. You got to do the St Andrews. First time to Scotland, you've got to go to the old course. You got to
Yeah,
go
that's
look that up.
everybody's got to play that. I like the ones that
Yeah,
people don't talk about. It's just like I like to get to the ones that are the little gems.
yeah.
I'm
So
sure there's so many.
Cruden Bay would have probably been in that bracket 10,
Yeah.
15 years ago, 20 years ago. And then more people that visit, and like the guys like No Laying Up come here and they
Oh
do
yeah.
something on it. And then like all the golf hipsters come along, and then it becomes a big thing. And it's
Sure.
great. It's grown from year to year. I think this year they're talking it's going to be their highest visitor number to date. Is the early projection, so it's good. It's really good.
Awesome. So where do you want to be in 5 years? What are your goals? Like what are
Oh,
you trying to get better at and like your career, your life? We can get into some like personal development stuff if you want
sure.
to as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. So I've just started recently doing travel trips. So there's a destination in Turkey. It's Belix, the name of the city in Turkey. It's really good, really high standard of golf. Great for taking groups away. So I've started doing more like travel trips, and then just going to keep growing that. Doing a, two this year, one already for next year, and I'm actually looking at your neck of the woods. I'm thinking about doing one to Pinehurst 2026.
Ah, yeah, that'd be great. I was
Yeah.
just there for the US Open and such a great spot. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Cool.
mean, it's just still looking to diversify a little bit and do a few more client trips away. Yeah, I see myself in terms of like more coaching side of things. I'm going to take my
Yeah.
plates on the road this winter. So I'm going to take the plates on the road. Going to go see other coaches and get their players on it. Do a bit of consultancy work with them. Get their
Nice.
players on. Yeah, get their players on. Right. See 8 players or whatever in a day. Get them on for 45 minutes. Right. Here's what you do. speak with them and the coach, give them some feedback, and then a bit more detail to the coach. Like, here's what you want to work on. Here's why he hits that shot. Here's why he's limited rotation in the right side or whatever. Give them a bit of a plan to work on. It's
Hmm.
something unique for the player because they can't get access to it. Because I think there's only two Smart2Move systems in Scotland.
Really?
Yeah, so there's not many that are going to be portable.
Dude, you're doing
So
the right thing. That's smart. Little
yeah,
side hustle, and it's so good because now you get to spend time with other coaches, and it's like a two-way street of you learning and them learning, and make a little money.
yeah, no, it'll
Good
be
stuff.
exactly it's so I've got a couple of pros signed up already. I'll get that. It's going to be an off-season thing. Just hit the road, and some of the guys that have these indoor studios, it'd be quite nice. Just go there in the winter and just set up
Right.
camp and just get a few guys on it, and then maybe set up a 6 months down the line, or comes into springtime, let's get back and let's see how their players are moving, see if you changed and see if they've moved better. So that's something I really want to grow over the next couple of years, is kind of be maybe the kind of go-to guy for ground reaction forces in Scotland.
Love it. So what's your daily routine look like, and what do you do like in your off time to, like, I guess, recharge, like any other hobbies? Or I know you said
Yeah,
you're into fitness. Like, talk to me about what you think that stuff sort of helps you to be successful around
yeah, yeah. I
your
need to
work.
be more. I need to be more into my fitness. I've been slacking for a good
I'm
while.
just setting you up.
Yeah, I set up a gym in the teaching studio, and honestly, like, the plates have dust. It's embarrassing. I feel like I should just like wipe them down daily to make it look to other people that I've used them. But no, the what I do in my spare time, I really like cooking. I'm a big barbecue guy,
Okay, there you go.
so that's what I would. If you could say like a day away from golf, I still love playing golf, so that would probably be my best day. But
Yeah,
a day away from golf, what do you want to do? It'd be just let me sit at the back of the garden and barbecue all day. So that'd be one way I would kind of chill out.
gotcha. Guinness guy.
Yeah,
What's the drink of
Guinness.
choice?
Hey, if you know a Scotsman, we aren't fussy, so we'll drink whatever is handed to us, especially if it's being paid for. the
Like, this
Yeah,
is embarrassing, but this is what I'm drinking right now because it's so
oh
hot
yeah,
here. I know.
yeah.
Usually,
What is
I'm
that?
like, I'm
White Claw?
drinking what? Yeah, it's a White Claw. I like a
Yeah,
check.
so
Like
those
it.
those seltzer things haven't really hit Scotland yet. No one really drinks them
Yeah,
yet. The
it's. I know. I do enjoy Guinness. I don't drink it enough because just just does. It's not available, right? It's like you don't think about it
Yeah,
when you go into a bar here, but um, that would be the first thing that I would do when I visit you, is like actually get
yeah, yeah,
a proper Guinness.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you like whiskey? Or you'd maybe call it bourbon, but
Not a big, yeah, a little bourbon, but not really a big liquor guy, honestly. Tequila probably more
okay,
than that if
okay,
I had a choice, but could be coaxed into pretty much anything. But
yeah,
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 but I like the barbecue. That's the yeah,
yeah.
definitely
So I've got a
down
lot of
with that.
yeah, do a lot of barbecue when I can. The Yeah, before kids came along, me and my wife, well, she skis and I snowboard, so we would do that.
Okay, there you go.
Bit of a winter vacation would be that kind of style of holiday. But the nothing else. I still love playing. I love going to play new courses. I've got
Any
I've got
competition, or are you just like doing the travel thing and just enjoy playing?
no,
Like
I've
you can play.
entered a couple of competitions, a couple of
Yeah,
pro-ams. There's a Highland Golf Links pro-am. It's in October. It's three amazing courses. So it's Castle Stewart, or Cabot
heard of
Highlands they're
that.
called now,
Yeah.
and Nairn and Dornoch. It's a 3-day pro-am there, so it's really good.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, no, I try to go on. My best friend of mine, we trying to work our way through the top 100 list. So we're trying to tick
Oh,
off all
nice.
these courses. So that's I mean that's a 30-year plan, but we're trying to
Yeah,
we like going to pick off new destinations and try and tick off that list.
that's super cool. All right, so
Yeah,
a couple more questions, and I'll let you get off. I know it's late there, but
sure.
so advice for the young coaches, right? If you had to do it again, you're 21, 22, coming out of college, PGM. Like,
Yeah,
what advice would you give those hungry young
sure.
coaches?
So, so what I wish I'd done when I was maybe at 21, 22, or say 25 when I qualified my
Right.
PGA. At
Yeah.
24, 25, I still lived at home, no bills apart from maybe a car bill. Should have taken more risks. probably should have taken more risk. There's nothing really on the line. It becomes different when you're supporting two kids or one
Right.
kid or whatever, and you've got a mortgage now and you've got a house to pay for. I think if you could take more risks, like in hindsight, I should have probably stopped the pro shop gig 5 years earlier, and just went right now. I want to teach,
Yeah.
and I only need to make 10 lessons a week, and everything's paid for and
Yeah.
everything's rosy. It's like there's very little risk when you still potentially live at home, or you've got very little outlay in terms of bills. So should have made that
Right.
jump earlier. But in terms of, I mean, everyone's situation is different, right? People have moved away and they're working away from home in their job or whatever. But if you have that luxury I had, that I lived at home, and you don't have that outgoing bills of rent and or a mortgage or whatever, you can definitely be a little bit more risk taking. Now, the next thing, have everything automated. It clears up your diary big time. All my newsletters are automated. So I've got like 10 newsletters waiting to go, drip feeding every 3 weeks type thing. Um, all my bookings done through my website. So people go into my website right at the very
Yeah.
top, it's book now. Um, People book in. I don't have to go on to the days of like, you email me, hey buddy, I heard from Jim that you're good at coaching. And then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what days can you manage? I can manage Thursday, Friday. Okay, can you manage Friday at 6? No, can't. Going out for dinner with the wife. And it's like 8 emails later to book in a
Yeah.
lesson. So
I
it's
hate that.
yeah. So I would get away from that. I would try automate it. I know the personal touch is nice, but you're always going to deal with emails. But for the
Right.
regular lesson taker, they can just go streamline into your website, book in. And then just recently, in the last 2 years, I've changed the business. I do like a subscription model basis for my coaching. So everyone that I teach, or 90% of the people I teach, that are in long-term plans or on a monthly
Yeah. I
like direct
noticed that.
debit.
Yeah. That's really good. I saw your levels on your website. Really
Yeah,
nice job you've done there.
yeah. So the so any young coaches or anyone just starting off, don't have to be young, but if you're starting off in the coaching game, the stress of like, I just sold 5 for 4 this month, and when's my next one coming, and when's my next package? Oh, this person's coming back for a lesson. I wonder if you'll buy 5 lessons from it. When's your next paycheck coming in? Is the Used to be a real stress, and then winter comes in, and it's like, right,
Yeah.
winter clients, going through that whole stress cycle for a year. Whereas if you can just say like, here's the deal. This is what I do. And you just have to be strict with it and just say, right, and be confident in your product and say, hey, here's what I do. It's a monthly direct debit. There's a minimum time you have to commit to this. And then you go from there. And it just,
I like it.
from, yeah, from a coach starting off, it gives you, cash flow. And then from there, you can start growing it. And then you can start investing in technology if you want to go down that route, or just investing in yourself by going on seminars and certification stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. That's really good advice. What are some of your favorite certifications that you've done? I know you mentioned the Smart2Move, but have you done any other like biomechanics, technical stuff aside from the stuff you
I've
learned from
done,
Graham, I guess?
yeah, I've done the Scott Cowicks one during
There you
COVID.
go. Yep.
I
That's
done
one of my
the
favorites.
really, really good. I mean, that was 5 hours. It's
Yeah.
really in depth. He does a really good job, and I think it's at a really,
Oh, good.
really good price point. I think it's great value. Came
Mm-hmm.
away from that thinking it was loads. It's one of those ones you can look back on year after year and just rewatch it. So that was really good. I done like a Steve Furlonger one during
Okay.
COVID. He was doing like an hour Zoom call with you. It was good. He's a big force plate guy. Um, yeah, been a lot of force plate stuff. The
Good.
Yeah, I done some stuff with Terry Hashimoto when I first had Body Track.
Yeah. I was with them a long time as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I was Body Track, and then made the plunge for the Smart2Move. Um, that's a nice, and that's what I would say to people as well. If you want to get into if you want to start thinking about, right, I actually want to start using this ground. I'm really interested in it. The center of pressure is good enough to start with. Like
Yeah.
we're spoiled with the Smart2Move, but a young coach
Yeah.
starting out, even if you can I picked up my first one second hand, just on those, like the Facebook pages like that, like
Mm-hmm.
the golf tech ones. I picked it up second hand, got it shipped to me, paid like $1,000, got it to my door, and just got people standing on it and said like, hey, your pressure is 60% on your trail side of impact. Let's change that. And I thought it was really beneficial to a lot of players. It doesn't have to be much
Yeah.
more than that. Um, I know it shows you some forces, and you can argue like how, but it's for center of pressure. It's pretty spot on, and I think you can get people. It's so user friendly in terms of the 2 feet, just like the Smart2Move with the 2D. You can see like,
Right.
oh, it goes back here and it goes away on the toe and it stutters around here and has a little party in my right foot, and then it doesn't really get into the left. I think that's great for 90% of your club players. So I
Yeah,
would
it's
I
a
would
good
start
start.
there.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah,
All right. So anything I haven't asked you that you want to talk about before we get to the last question?
I can't think. We got stuck into the Smart2 stuff. I think that's what we're
Yeah,
here for. Part of that.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was good. I think it was very, very helpful, very valuable, great stuff. You got to save some of it for your road trips.
yeah,
you can't get all the good stuff away, but yeah, I think
yeah.
it's so cool, and you're doing amazing. And we'll give out your socials because I think that's where we sort of connected, which is on Instagram. I think you do a great job with your social media and your website. Um, so
Thank you.
kudos for that. Yeah. So if you could get one message out to the world, billions of people, and put it on a billboard, a quote, a mantra, a thought, a
Oh,
picture, what would your billboard say and why?
about my coaching philosophy, or
It's up to you. I always prefer the ones that
oh,
aren't coaching. Just anything.
yeah.
What's the mantra for the life of, you can say, the life of Murray?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. I actually don't know. What would be the mantra for me?
What do you want to
That's
tell people?
I have no idea. You gotta avoid like the cheesy, corny, motivational quotes here. It's a pitfall
Yeah,
here. The I don't take risks. Like we talked
there you
about it
go.
earlier. Take risks.
Yeah.
The
No, I think that's great life advice.
Yeah, it's daunting. Like I said, it's daunting, especially when you have people to support and people to people to look after. But if you're someone that's listening, that you can commute from your family home to your workplace, and you are living there still, and you're thinking, I really want to push this coach, and I really want to step out from maybe some other job title you have, then, or if it's anything, it doesn't have to be a golf coach, it could be anything. If you want to start
Right.
doing more in the merchant side of things in the pro shop, just go ahead and do it. Well, the risk is extremely low. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I think it's good
yeah,
advice. I appreciate it, man. Well, give everybody how they can get a hold of you, what your social handles are, because it's a little different. It's like it's not your, especially your
yeah.
Instagram, unless you
So it's just Map Golf. Map Golf is the Instagram handle. Map Golf
MAP.
is the so that's actually just my initials. It's just my initials.
I know it is. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah. Some people are like Map Golf. It's like Map
I
Me
know.
to
But it's just,
Better Golf, and I'm like, maybe it works. So I don't really put on Facebook or anything. My Instagram is linked to Facebook, and it maybe just posts on the odd video that I
that's the
share
way
across
mine
both
is. Yeah,
platforms. Yeah, but Instagram's where I put my focus and try to put up stories and try to put up some stuff most days. Yeah, yeah. So Map Golf would be on Instagram. Map Golf is the name of the website as well. .co.uk for us UK folks over here.
yeah.
And that's it. That's pretty much it.
Awesome, my man. Thank you so much for coming on. It's great to meet you and get to
You
know
too,
you, and
likewise.
hopefully we can stay in touch. And as I tell everybody, anything I can do for you,
Yeah,
I'm
likewise.
happy to help.
Yeah, if you want to bounce any ideas off of the old footwork, we can get into that.
Yeah, definitely want to do that.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks so much, my man.
Thank you so much. Thank you.